In the heart of Philadelphia stands one of the most chilling and influential structure in American history. A place where silence wasn't just a rule, it was the foundation. A fortress that reshaped the world's understanding of punishment, discipline, and reform. This is EASTERN State Penitentiary, once the most expensive and most technologically advanced prison on earth. Today I am taking you inside its crumbling cell blocks, the echoing hallways, and the shadows of stories left behind. Stories of innovation, stories of suffering, and stories that still lingers long after the last prisoner walked out in 1971. Join me on this journey through one of America's most notorious historical landmarks. The story begins long before the first stone were laid. In the late 18th and early 19th century, American jails were chaotic, overcrowded, and violent. Reformers known as the Philadelphia Society for Alleviating the Miseries of Public Prisons believed there had to be a better way. Their idea was radical for that time, a prison not of punishment but penitence. Instead of corporal punishment, offenders would be isolated in silence. They would reflect, pray, reform themselves. In 1821, construction began, and on October 20th, 1829, EASTERN State Penitentiary opened its massive gates for prisoners. When it was completed, it was the most expensive public building ever constructed in the United States, symbol of America's bold new approach to criminal justice. Designed by architect John Haven, EASTERN State wasn't just a prison. It was a masterpiece of engineering. Its layout was unlike anything the world had ever seen. A radical floor plan with cell blocks radiating outward from the central hub, like a spoke on a wheel, allowing guards to watch multiple corridors from a single vantage point. This design became known as the Pennsylvanian system, and the governments around the world copied it. Prisons inspired by EASTERN State appeared in England, Germany, France, Russia, China, and beyond. Every cell was equipped with something astonishing for the 1830s. Running water, heating, flushing toilets, skylights, all the amenities many American homes didn't even have. The skylight had a symbolic purpose. Reformers called it as Eye of God, reminding prisoners that even in darkness they were watched and judged. What truly made EASTERN State revolutionary and controversial was its strict system of isolation. Prisoners were kept in complete solitary confinement, often for years. No talking, no visitors except clergy, no contact with other inmates. Meals were passed through small metal doors. Exercise took place in a tiny individual yard behind each cell. Prisoners wore hoods whenever they were moved so they couldn't see anything or be seen. The prison's founders believed isolation encouraged moral reform, but as decades passed, critics argue the opposite, that the total silence broke the mind instead of healing it. Some prisoners began to suffer emotionally, mentally, even hallucinating. Even Charles Dickens, after visiting EASTERN State in 1842, wrote that the system was cruel and wrong, describing the isolation as a form of slow mental torture. His critique helped shift global opinion against long-term solitary confinement. A typical day in EASTERN State was tightly controlled. Inmates worked inside their cells, weaving, shoemaking, carpentry, or other trades meant to be rehabilitate them for life after prison. Every cell had a small feeding slot, a small door too short for a man to stand in, and a single bunk attached to the wall. Most cells measure 8 by 12 feet. Cold in winter, stifling in the summer. Despite the advanced heating system, it was still a harsh environment. Meals were served, bread, soup, potatoes. Punishment for misbehavior was severe, even under the reform-based system. The water bath. Prisoners chained outside during winter after being doused in cold water. The iron gag, a brutal device that ripped the mouth and tongue. The mad chair, where prisoners were bound so tightly that their circulation was cut off. These punishments were officially outlawed by the late 1800s, but their legacy remained part of the penitentiary's dark history. Famous inmates. Over its 142 years of operation, Eastern State housed more than 75,000 prisoners. Some of the most famous included Al Capone, 1929 to 1930. Perhaps the prison's most well-known inmate was Al Capone. Capone was arrested for carrying a concealed weapon in Philadelphia and spent nearly 8 months there. His cell looked nothing like others, furnished with rug, a desk, a lamp, painting, and a radio. While not officially confirmed, historians agree he likely lived far more comfortably than most inmates. Willie Sutton, one of America's most infamous bank robbers, known for his intelligence and daring escapes. Sutton famously participated in the 1945 tunnel escape, the most well-known escape attempt in Eastern State history. Other notable inmates were a bank robber named Slick Willie, convicted murderers, thieves, and political prisoners, hundreds of immigrants jailed for petty crimes during the 19th century. On April 3, 1945, a group of 12 inmates executed the most daring escape attempt in Eastern State's history. Led by Willie Sutton and the fellow inmate Clarence Clandestine, they dug a 97-foot tunnel beneath cellblock 7. The tunnel was astonishing: reinforced wall, an electric light, wood support, and even a rope for ventilation, all done in complete secrecy. When the escape happened, it made national headline, but freedom was short-lived. Every inmate was captured within minutes to days, including Sutton, who was caught the very same day. The tunnel was filled in, but it rediscovered in 2005 during maintenance work, providing the escape wasn't a legend, it was real. Decline of the Pennsylvania system. By the late 1800s, the solitary confinement model began to crumble. Overcrowding forced the prison to abandon its original system. Cells meant for one inmate held 2 or 3. Silence was no longer enforced. The prisons evolved into more traditional system of group labor and shared cell blocks. By the early 20th century, Eastern State was aging rapidly. Repairs were expensive, newer prisons were more efficient, but the Eastern State continued operating through 2 World Wars, the Great Depression, and the rise of modern American policing. By the 1920s and 1930s, Eastern State felt less like a silent fortress and more like a sprawling, overcrowded compound. The prison installed baseball field, workshop, classroom, and even a small industrial area. Inmates worked in maintenance, repair, manufacturing, and prison services. During the mid-20th century, riots became more common. In 1933 and again in 1945, prisoners set fire to cell blocks over poor living conditions. Reform programs tried to keep up: literacy classes, psychological evolutions, trade training, but the infrastructure continued to age and crumble. By the 1960s, Eastern State was obsolete. In 1971, after 142 years of operation, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania officially closed the penitentiary. When the prisoners left, nature moved in. For nearly 2 decades, the prison sat abandoned. Wine crawled through cracks, snow drifted through open roof, cats and stray animals roamed cell blocks. Urban explorers, vandals, and photographers snuck inside, giving Eastern State a reputation as one of America's most mysterious ruins. The city planned to demolish it many times, but historians fought to save it. In 1994, the penitentiary opened to the public for the first time as a historic site. Although this documentary focused on history, It is impossible to ignore Eastern State reputation. The prison is often listed among the most haunted locations in the world. Visitors and staff have reported footsteps, distant voices, and shadowy figures in cell block 12, 6, and 4. Paranormal investigators, including major TV shows, have filmed here. While historians don't link specific ghost stories to documented events, the atmosphere alone makes it easy to understand why Eastern State fears this imagination. Old stone walls, crumbling corridors, silent cells. It feels as though the past is still watching. Today, Eastern State Penitentiary serves a very different purpose. It's a museum, a monument, and an activist center for discussing the history and the future of the American prison system. Its award-winning exhibit explores mass incarceration, criminal justice reform, and the human cost of imprisonment. One of the most powerful installations is called the Big Graph, a massive outdoor sculpture visualizing the explosive growth of the US prison population. More than 500,000 visitors come here every year, some for history, some for architecture, some for the eerie beauty of decay, but all live with a deeper understanding of a system that shaped not only American justice but the world. Conclusion. So, Eastern State Penitentiary story is a story of ideals, both noble and flawed. A place built on hope that becomes a symbol of controversy. A fortress designed to inspire penitents that left many in despair. Yet its walls still standing, not to punish, but to remind us. Remind us of where our justice system comes from, reminds us of our human lives shaped by these cells, and remind us that the past never truly stays silent. Thank you for joining me on this journey through one of America's most iconic historical landmarks. If you enjoy this mini documentary, consider liking, commenting, and subscribing for the more travel and history exploration. Until the next time, stay curious, stay respectful of history, and stay safe.